Okay, looks like we have everyone in, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So hello everyone, and welcome to our incoming freshman info session. My name is Leslie Garrettsy, and I'll be assisting our panelists today. I want to start by letting you know that this info session is being recorded. So today's info session is intended to give you a space to ask questions about housing, dining, and residential life at UCR in fall quarter. Specifically, we know these times feel uncertain for multiple reasons. You may be starting college for the first time, moving away from home to live on campus, and of course there's the uncertainty of the COVID-19 situation and its impacts. So today we'll answer your questions as best as we can, and we'd also like you to know that the situation is fluid and circumstances can change. At UCR, we've been adapting to all of this change since March, and we want you to feel confident that we'll be able to continue to do so in order to provide a safe, welcoming, and learning-friendly environment for you. So we're going to start today with introductions of our panelists. Then I'll review some guidelines for our time together, and then we'll dive into your questions. So first up, Bob, why don't you introduce yourself?
That's a heck of a welcome. Welcome to all of you. My name is Bob BRUMBAUGH, and I am the Senior Director for Housing Services and a proud alum of UCR.
Awesome. And Robin?
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Hungerford. I'm the Senior Director for Dining and Hospitality Services. I'm also a proud alumna of UCR, so very thankful to talk with each of you today and welcoming you to our campus.
And Christy?
Good afternoon, almost said good morning. Either way, you might have just woke up. Christine Bender, I'm the Director of Residential Life, not an alum, however, a proud Highlander employee.
All right, thank you. So now for some quick guidelines for today's info session. As you join the Zoom today, you were placed on mute. We'd like to eliminate any background noise or distractions as much as possible so everyone can hear the panelists' responses. Go ahead and submit your questions in the chat, and I will present them to our panelists for answering. If you'd like to answer ask your question live, please use the raise hand feature, and I'll call on you to go live to answer that or ask that question. In an effort to get through all of your questions, I'm going to pool similar ones together to present to the panelists to try to avoid duplicates. We have about 45 minutes together today and want to get through as many of your questions as possible. If we don't get to your question, you can check out our website for FAQs or contact any of us directly. I'm going to go ahead and include that website URL as well as all of our email addresses in the chat right now, so for your reference. And I'll also be launching a few quick polls during the session, and we greatly appreciate your participation. Your responses will help guide us in regards to website content, information that goes out via email, as well as social media posts. So I'm going to launch the first poll now, if everyone can take a moment. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. If you haven't already, go ahead and start asking your questions in the chat. And we have our first couple of questions rolling in. So panelists, first question. Why are we paying for housing for the month of August when we are not living there? Bob, do you want to try to address that question? Take yourself off mute.
I'm not sure if we're talking about the residence halls or the apartments, but although the billing, the first assessment does hit your account in August, it's not due or payable till September 1st. So, and then that's for the month of September. If you're asking, maybe that's part of the question too, that you're paying a month when you don't arrive till the end of the month. And what actually happens is your housing, the cost of your housing is really a package cost. And what we've done is we've divided that cost into more digestible payments, something that's easier to manage for folks. So you do start your payments on September 1st. If we didn't split it up that way, then the amounts would be higher going along, and that wouldn't be as friendly.
Okay. Next question is from Calvin. Since parents cannot help students on move-in day, if the students forget something, can the parent drop off items at the RSO? And what are the hours for the RSO for Dundee?
You want me to answer that, or do you want to answer that, Dr. Bender?
I mean, I'm dropping things off at the RSO, but please keep in mind that after you move in, we'll just address it now. After you move in, there is a 7-day kind of like a hunker down period where you'll be expected to stay in your room. After move-in, stay in your room for 7 days for the exception of health appointments, low-risk outdoor recreational activities, things along those lines, and of course meals. So kind of keep that in mind. So we would have to find a way to get that to your room. So really kind of do a double check, triple check to ensure that you remember everything. As for RSO hours, I'll let Bob address those specifically, but we're only going to have 2 RSOs open due to the lower occupancy in different areas. And so Dundee specifically will not be open, but a nearby RSO will be open.
Right, and office hours for the RSO or the front desk currently look like they're going to be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Those could change, but they'll definitely be posted on our website.
Okay, next question is about Dundee. So for the Dundee rooms, are there drawers for the desks since we don't see any drawers in the pictures posted online?
I have to think about the furnishings for Dundee. You know, I cannot recall that. Maybe Ben, if you can help me with a visual on one of those photos and maybe throw it in the chat for us, that would be wonderful. Keep an eye on the chat and we'll get that answer to you for sure. I know there are plenty of drawers in the space, but I'm thinking specifically for the desk, and I can't picture that at the moment.
Okay. Next question, Bob, I think this is another one for you. What will move-in day look like?
Well, that's a great loaded question. So the first thing I want to tell you is, as Leslie mentioned, things continue to change. I know we're approaching September here, but they continue to change quite a bit for us. And as you can see, many institutions are opening up across the country with good and less good results. So we're learning from them as well. So we continue to adjust based on their experiences. The best way to keep up to date with how we are going to open is to keep an eye on our website at housing.ucr.edu. We'll keep updating our FAQs, and eventually we'll be pinning up a move-in page specifically for this fall. What I can tell you is right now it looks like prior to arriving to campus, you may be expected to take part in a mobile health symptom application. What that means is for 7 to 14 days, that's still to be determined, you may be going online and monitoring your symptoms or noting your symptoms each day. And mostly that's for you so that you can you consciously keep track of how you're feeling as it comes up to move-in day, because if you had any symptoms as move-in day approaches, then you're going to want to make the decision. The best decision is to stay home and just delay your move-in. Everything's going to be here waiting for you. We're not going to give away your room, so you don't have to be worried about that. We want you to make the best decision. So if you have any symptoms, you're going to want to stay home and wait until you have at least 72 hours that you're symptom-free before you think about coming to campus. And then the day prior to move-in, actually we're not sure if prior to move-in or on move-in day, there may be a requirement for there will be a requirement for a COVID test of some sort. It just has not been determined for certain yet if that will be in the days preceding move-in or as you are on campus on move-in day. Move-in days right now are set for September 26th and 27th. There's a chance also that those could expand to 1 or 2 days beyond the 27th. But again, not sure yet. The first week of September, we expect to mail you information, or email you information rather, that's going to tell you a lot more, and we hope a lot more things will be in concrete by then as well. But I know you're used to this environment, and yes, things could change, and we have to keep saying that over and over. So you want to keep an eye on all your emails and on our website. When you do arrive, you'll have set move-in times, and folks will be moving in smaller cohorts or pods, however you want to call them, in different time slots throughout the day, so that we don't have a lot of movement in the community, a lot of people running into each other, things like that. That's what we don't want. So you'll have more space, be moving in time blocks. And then during, as Dr. Bender alluded to, during your first 7 to 14 days, still to be determined, you'll likely be moving around mostly in those cohorts or with those cohorts or pods. And they usually consist of the halls that you're going to be living on anyway, or the suites that you're going to be in. So that's very convenient. And then you'll be mostly going to your meals, getting your meals. You may go to health services. There may be some housing sponsored activities, low risk outdoor activities, or programming of some sort that you'll be involved in during that time. Or maybe this is a good time for me to hand off to Dr. Bender about what things will look like as you do arrive to campus and settle in. Let me back up with one point though. I think someone already said it, but unfortunately on move-in day, when you do arrive, we won't be able to allow any guests into the building. So certainly bring a couple key family members with you, because that's a really important milestone and moment in your life for you and for them. And you want to share that moment, but it's just unfortunate and it's not the way we'd like it to be. We won't be able to do that in the buildings. We will be setting up though a moment outside before your family members drive away for you to kind of document that moment together. Dr. Bender?
Yeah, so during, as I mentioned, that period, we will have plenty of not just virtual programs, but also quite a bit outdoor, like I mentioned, low risk activities. There's some great hiking trails around the university, but we're also planning on potentially doing like outdoor yoga. We might have movie on the lawn, things along those lines where we can be able to wear masks, be safely physical distancing from one another, but be able to get you out of your room, get some fresh air, do things along those lines. So there will be a full planned, what we call welcome week, that welcomes you to the university and everything going on during that time. So feel free to kind of check that out as it comes about. It probably will be posted by mid-September and a little bit closer to your move-in date, specifically of all the different things that we'll be covering during that time frame.
Okay, thank you both. Before we move on to our next question, I'm going to launch our second poll. And our next question is from Carrie. First month housing and dining fees are due on September 1st. However, we don't receive our final housing confirmation until September 1st through 4th. The question is, when will ACC send the email to create an account to make online payments for Dundee?
So ACC at Dundee, I believe, sent out their first notice to you, introducing you to how financials will be handled with them last week. And if they haven't done so already, they should be sending you out any day, any moment now, the information about the online account where you can make your electronic payment.
Next question is from Audrey. Do you think that in-person classes will be required at any point during this school year?
That's a shot in the dark. Obviously, since none of us are specific to the academic side, they're kind of calling it quarter by quarter. So right now, fall quarter is mostly remote learning. Some things will be in person, but that's mostly graduate courses and labs. So I think it would be ill-advised for us to say yes or no, since the academic side of the house are the ones that make those calls on a quarterly basis.
Next question, will there be campus security 24/7?
Yes, safety is one of our core values, and that's not going to change in COVID at all. It hasn't changed during the spring or the summer. So it will continue, and security is offered in many different ways. So there are different areas of the communities that are cameraed. There are controlled access points throughout the communities. And then, of course, we do have our vehicular patrols by our own campus police department. And we have a team of community service officers that are employed by the campus police department to walk both the exterior and interior of our communities. So yes, that value is very much in place, and those things will still go on.
Next question, Bob, I feel like you touched on it a little bit in your description of move-in day, but maybe you can answer this specific question. Since parents aren't allowed, who will help us during move-in?
So if you need assistance during move-in, Dr. Bender can back me up on this. We will have staff available that will can help you out with that.
Okay. Next question is from Cheyenne, who says, good morning. Good morning to you too also. Thank you. I was wondering if in Pentland Hills there are 2 types of lofts and a regular triple room, or if there is only 1 type of triple room in Pentland Hills.
So for fall, there actually are not going to be any triple occupancy rooms. So in none of the locations will there be triple occupancy rooms. We will, at Pentland Hills specifically, we'll have double occupancy rooms, because with the suite style housing, we are still being told that the lower ratio of students to bathrooms, which is one of the most important aspects, is lower. So we're able to do double occupancy. You could be in a triple occupancy room with 2 residents, but there will never be 3 residents in a room.
So Bob, in that case, if there's a room that can accommodate a triple, but it'll only be assigned 2, is the layout of the triples in Pentland, are they lofts or are they a regular triple room? I think that's ultimately the question.
Okay, they are lofts at Pentland.
Okay, yeah. Awesome, thank you. Next question is from Audrey. Where exactly do we pay for the tuition, housing, and other fees? Is it on our web? And if so, how do they find our web? Or where on our web?
So you're looking for your banner student account. It is on our web, and that's not obvious when you get there. I'm trying to think what they've renamed it. It should be your student account. So it should be labeled that way, as your student account, because all your housing and your tuition and fees are going to be on that one account. So that's very convenient, except for if you are assigned to Dundee, then of course your housing will be paid separately through them, and they have given you access to an account that they've set up for you.
Okay. Robin, this next question is for you. It's from Dimmy. Is the dining hall no longer all you can eat?
Technically, in a sort of the normal all you care to eat environment, that's true, but we're doing some things to make sure that you have a lot of value in your meal plan. So the first thing is we're coming up with an option to describe sort of what a meal equivalency is. And so right now when you come in to swipe, it'll be an entree, 2 hot sides, a cold side, a dessert, and a beverage. So that's a lot of food. I would say that, you know, that's more than most people would consume each meal period, but that will be available to you all the time. Additionally, whether you get the 150 or the unlimited, you do have the option to come back in. So if you came in 8, maybe you skipped lunch or something because you took a nap. If you come in and get dinner at 5 o'clock and by 8 o'clock, you're like, shoot, I'm sort of hungry again. You, with your 150 or your unlimited, you can come back in. It does take a swipe from you. So if you have the 150, that is reducing your swipes. If you have the unlimited, you can just come back in at 8 o'clock and get another meal. So we'll make sure you have a lot of food and a good value for your meal swipe each time. But if you're hungry, you can also come back in the residential restaurant for more food. And we also will have a more mobile ordering application where you can pick up food in an exterior point of the building. And we'll have some convenience store open. So those places also take your dining dollars if you want to get a snack later or something like that. So lots of options. And again, this is only for right now. As soon as we can do dine-in once again, even if it's at a reduced capacity, we'll figure out how to bring dine-in back into our environment. So we're only starting out with takeout only, but I'm hopeful that we won't be that way for months on end. I hope that we get back to dine-in seating soon.
Before our next question, I'm going to launch our third poll. So take a moment for that. And next question is, when can campus apartment residents buy parking permits for fall quarter?
So you should have been sent an email already, actually. Parking permits have been, I think that period has already opened up. If I am mistaken, you will definitely get an email from Housing Services telling you when that's possible. So if it didn't go out last week, it's coming this week. It should be the last week of August. That's very possible. But you'll definitely get an email from us to your student email account.
Okay. Next question is from Audrey. What day is the very last day to cancel the housing contract?
That's a tough question. It's a good question, though. Technically, you can put in a request to cancel your contract at any time. So there's no last date that you can cancel it. However, I will say if you do look at the cancellation section of your contract, you'll notice that as we hit the mark 30 days before move-in, there is a fee that goes along with the cancellation, and it goes up starting at that time. So most folks want to try and cancel before that 30-day before move-in mark, which I believe is the 27th. So it's probably this Thursday or Friday. So you will want to check on that.
Thank you. Next question, and maybe we can answer this from both a housing and a dining perspective. What kind of cleaning services are available for communal places?
Do you want me to start, Rob? Okay. So in the housing area, of course, we expect that wherever you walk in housing, wherever you turn, you should be able to see sanitizing hand stations. Those will be in place everywhere that it's obvious that you'll be entering new areas or high touch areas. The other thing that we're doing is, usually there's a certain number of cleans that we would do per day in our common spaces. We've doubled and tripled the number of times that all our common spaces will be cleaned, and they're being cleaned not only by surface clean, but there are new fancy cleaners out there, hydro or electrostatic cleaners that allow these sanitizing, I'll call it solution, although it's not really a solution, I guess it'd be a vapor, to get into all the nooks and crannies of different areas. So we'll be using those in our common spaces as well. In addition to that, of course, we want you to, how you feel about things and what makes you comfortable in this environment, this COVID environment, and when you get around other folks. So we want you to consider that when you're thinking about what you're going to bring to campus with you. So if you know that you're going to sanitize every 30 seconds your hands or something, bring extra hand sanitizer for yourself. Maybe you want to bring a disinfectant solution if you're going to want to wipe down surfaces in addition to what we do. So those would be my biggest guidelines.
Bob, and before you start, Bob, can you talk about bathrooms also?
Bathrooms the same way. So bathrooms were usually cleaned the one time at the beginning of the day. They're going to be done 2 to 3 times now, and the electrostatic cleaner is used in those spaces.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead.
Sure, so dining is very similar. In our restaurants that you'll be in, we're doing a few things. So the first thing is we have added a disinfectant that's on the EPA list and that's been proven to sort of have efficacy for killing COVID. So we've incorporated those into all of our cleaning strategies. We have established high touch cleaning surfaces. Those will actually get addressed hourly in our restaurant environments. We've designated staff who will keep things like buttons and handles clean hourly. So the soda fountain will be open for you to self-serve, but we have someone dedicated that's literally there just disinfecting buttons through the meal period. So lots and lots of high touch cleaning and disinfecting. And similar to housing, we also bought the electrostatic backpack sprayers, and all of our restaurants will get that done at the end of every day to ensure full disinfectant of every surface. We'll also have hand sanitizers as you enter the restaurants. And there's a whole slew of cleaning protocols and hygiene protocols that we've implemented with our staff. I feel very, very confident that you are going to be eating in the safest restaurant in Riverside. I have gone to many restaurants for takeout or to sit outside, and although they're all trying very hard, most restaurants aren't as equipped as we are for sort of the cleaning protocols that are really required right now, nor do they just have the staffing levels or the financial means to keep up with sort of the disinfecting. And so we have a very strong commitment to making sure our restaurants are safe and clean for you, and I'm confident that we'll meet that expectation.
One question I saw in the chat, which is a great one, is are residents responsible for cleaning the bathrooms? And that's one of the great things about living in the residence halls. That's one of the things that we take care of for you. Meals are taken care of for you, and the cleaning of the common spaces are taken care of for you. So no, you will not have to clean the bathrooms. But again, in this COVID environment, we all know that people have different tolerances. So you may find that you do want to bring, you know, disinfectant solution or a wipe or something because you want to follow behind us or yourself when you're using those spaces and wipe them down an extra time. So that would really be up to you. But in general, we take care of that for you.
Thank you, Bob. To Robin's point about our restaurants being uber clean, me personally, if I feel like I really want to go to a restaurant and eat somewhere right now, I go to the restaurant here on campus because I know just how thorough we're all being. So just to throw that in a little bit. Our next question, can on-campus apartment contracts be canceled at any point in the academic year or only before fall quarter?
They also can be canceled at any time of the year.
Next question.
Maybe I'll add on to that because I know there's probably a lot of cancellation questions. If you were to come in the fall and you were to decide partway through the quarter that it's not working for you or there's some other reason and you canceled your contract, we're only going to charge you for the time that you're here. So there's not going to be an additional penalty to cancel your contract during COVID.
I'm going to launch our fourth poll and then move on to our next question, which is, are there closets or dressers in a Pentland double?
There are. So there are, geez, I just drew a blank. Remind me the question? There's closets and?
Dressers.
Oh, and dressers, yes. Everyone gets a dresser or a armoire. And so you will have those spaces in every room, not only at Pentland.
Thank you. Can parents come visit after the 14-day period?
So just to clarify, it's not a 14-day period, it's only 7 days. Because you will be getting tested on the day of move-in, it has been reduced to only a 7-day hunker down as opposed to 14. Parents and guests are actually not allowed physically into the halls at any point during the fall quarter, and during this kind of COVID time, we're restricting guests in order to make sure that we have a good eye on who's in the community, who's not in the community, in case something was to happen. It's easy to do contact tracing. So even like, say for example, if you live in Pentland and you want to go visit somebody in Lothian, you're going to have to meet at an outdoor location as you can't go to and from. So you only can stay within you only can visit folks within the same building that you live in. It does seem very restrictive, and I do understand that, but if you are watching the news, there are several university campuses that have already opened, and they've had huge outbreaks because there hasn't been a lot of good enforcement, I guess you could say, of some of these different movements that students are making. And we're highly asking that you play a huge role in being a positive community member and ensuring that everybody stays safe. And so that does include, guests and your movements and what you're doing. We are also highly encouraging that students don't go to and from a home location back to campus, things along those lines. It's some of those things that take place that ultimately leads to some high transfer probabilities and things along those lines. So like I said, I know it seems very restrictive, but just keep in mind that we're trying to ensure that you and everybody else that you live with is safe while here, and we're doing the best to control any type of outbreak from occurring.
Okay, next question. Is Dundee only housing singles? Bob, maybe you can do a quick rundown of singles versus doubles and what locations.
Sure. So in the Aberdeen and Verness, or AI location, the Lothian location, and the Dundee location, all rooms will be single occupancy. There could be 2 sets of furniture or 3 sets of furniture in that room because it was formerly a double occupancy or a triple occupancy room. However, there will only be 1 person assigned to it. At Pentland Hills, again, those rooms are all going to be double occupancy. And the same situation will occur. There could be 3 sets of furniture in the rooms that were formerly triples, but there will only be 2 individuals assigned to those rooms.
Thank you. Next question, how will more toiletries be given to students in that 14-day period? So again, it's a 7-day period, but if a student needed more toiletries during that 7-day period, how could they receive those?
Sure. So, I mean, I can add that during that period, students are going to be allowed to come down to get their food during that 7-day period. And in the residential restaurant they'll be visiting, there is a convenience store, and we're going to limit the occupancy as to only 2 guests at a time in that environment. And so they can get toiletries from there. I will also be launching a mobile ordering for that convenience store that we would gather their items for them that they order through the app and bring it to them at an exterior point of the building. And so that's another good option for toiletries. So like Leslie mentioned, now that we're down to a 7-day period, that's not much toiletries really needed in a 7-day period. So the chances of running out are probably pretty slim. But if someone forgets something or gets low, I feel like we'll have some options for them, our mobile ordering or our in-store or purchasing at the C-store, convenience store.
Okay, next question is from Calvin. How has UCR determined what will constitute sending students home if the COVID situation gets worse? How much time to leave the dorms? Should they take everything or take only the essentials for remote learning?
I think they're referencing if the campus were to sort of have a shutdown again in that question. Bob, you want to answer?
You think that's what we're talking about? Okay. If the campus were to shut down again, then students, it was recommended that they leave the campus and return to their permanent residence, and they were able to do so. We would want you to take everything with you because we learned in the spring that there's a lot of uncertainty as to when we might be able to open fully again. And that really creates a mess for you and your ability to get your things, as well as our ability to track them and all of that. So we would want you to take all your belongings with you in the event of a closure.
I do want to add something. Even in spring, when it was recommended for students to return home and the campus had its full shutdown, we still had a number of residents live with us all the way through the end of the spring quarter. So if UCR, if you're choosing to move in with us and UCR is your home and you don't have another home to go to perhaps, we didn't shut down to the point that everybody was forced to leave. So highly encourage for students to return home or to a home environment if they had one to return to. But I don't want anyone to worry that if there's a concern that the campus is going to shut down, that they'd have 2 days to get out and they need to find somewhere to go. We will make sure that you are taken care of, and if this is your home, we're going to figure out how to have this still be your home.
Exactly true.
Thank you. I'm going to launch our 5th and final poll. And our next question is about laundry. Is laundry 24/7? And will laundry be by appointment system to prevent too many students doing laundry at the same time?
So laundry is open 24/7, and there will be lower occupancy limits on those rooms. So people will want to note that when they're using them. They'll also be encouraged to social distance while they're in those spaces. And there will also be disinfectant solutions available and hand sanitizers so that you can wipe down equipment before you use it if that makes you feel more comfortable.
Okay. Next question. If a student is in the special services department, if a student has special needs, is there any way to make arrangements with housing for parents to help move in?
Yes, so if there is a special need, the first thing you'll want to do is you will make sure that you're registered with uh, disability services on campus, so that we get that information, because that is the central point on campus that takes care of all those things, and they make sure that all the appropriate people are notified, and so that we can assist in an appropriate way. And if there is a need like that, we will definitely be prepared to assist in any way we can. I can't say at this time that we'd still be able to let outside guests come in. It's not likely, but that'll all be discussed so that we can make sure that the appropriate help is given.
Okay. Bob, are there any tours available before move-in?
Unfortunately, there's no physical tours of any buildings right now. The tour program has been shut down when we started having to limit access to the building and bringing non-students and prospective students in. So we do have a great virtual tour at our website, and we encourage you definitely to take a look at that. And the only community that we don't have 360-degree photos of is Dundee, but we have recently added some updated photos even of Dundee. So take a look at those, and should give you a good flavor for what the different communities will look like.
Okay. Robin, I feel like you sort of touched on what the residential dining environment will be, but we have a question of how do we order food? And I thought maybe this is a good opportunity for you to walk through what the Glasgow experience might be, as well as what other food options and what those experiences might be like.
Sure. So Glasgow Residential Restaurant will be our main residential restaurant open based on what we're forecasting as our number of students on campus. It's a huge restaurant. It's 58,000 square feet, 2 stories. When we have dine-in seating, it seats 860 people. So a huge restaurant with plenty of room for social distancing, given the fact we're not starting with dine-in. It has multiple food platforms. And so residents will come in, swipe in. It's contactless. We have a new device called MorphoWave. You'll literally just wave your hand over the top of it and it lets you in. And then you'll go to the platform of sort of your choice to get your food for takeout. And our staff will scoop and serve you along the way as you make your selections of what you want. So that's the takeout process in Glasgow. Our other main option is our mobile ordering option. So there'll be a menu that's similar to Glasgow with perhaps a few other fan favorites as we go along the way over the weeks to keep the menu interesting and giving you some new things. And you can do some mobile ordering on your phone through an app, designated pickup time, and then we have an exterior point of the building that will have signage and be clear where you're supposed to be going, but you'll come there to pick up your mobile order if you don't want to come in the restaurant and sort of see the options and make selections. Those are our 2 primary options that we're planning to start with for fall, and then we'll see sort of how the quarter takes us and how the year takes us.
Okay. Are students able to bring cars on campus? And if so, do they have to purchase a parking permit? Bob, you're on mute, and I was muted while I was telling you you're on mute. So could you start?
Breakdown. So new incoming students are actually, who live in the residence halls, are not allowed to bring vehicles to campus, even during these COVID times when it will look like the campus is much less occupied. There are certain sustainability requirements the campus still needs to meet and such, so vehicles will not be allowed. However, if you have an exceptional need for a vehicle because of a job or a need to, you're a caretaker for your family or something like this, there's a form on the parking website that will allow you to submit a request to have an exception made. And as far as parking permits, the parking permits will be, you do have to purchase them, and you'll be able to go online at the parking services site to do that. And you will be notified by email when that period opens to do that. And then parking permits are handed out on move-in day to those who have them.
Okay. Will there be vacuums available to be used in the dorms?
trying to remember if we had Dr. Bender, are the RAs still giving out vacuums?
I think we've tried to move away from that.
Yeah.
So it might be ideal for you to bring, because the thing is too, is even if they do, then you have to be able to track down your RA, find them in their room when they're there, things along those lines. So you may want to consider like a self kind of vacuum to pick up yourself that you can get from like Walmart. It's not a plug-in, but you just roll it across the carpet and it picks up items.
Okay. We have a follow-up to the to sort of a mix of questions, but if a student were to say, if their parent were to drop something off at the RS, you know, that they forgot for move-in, or if they order something from Amazon, do they have to wait the 7 days before they can pick up their Amazon order or pick up whatever it is that their parents may have dropped off for them at the RSO?
No, you do not. You will not be that restricted during that period. We expect that you'll be able to go and get packages, messages, mail, meals, again, participate in activities. So it's not a total restrictive time period. It's just going to be a little more limited. We're not going to want you to drive down the street to Taco Bell and things like that. But you will be able to move around in the community.
Okay, next question. If every student gets tested for COVID upon moving in, will they be able to go get food or work out, or will they be inside their room until clear?
Yeah, I think that's a good question where we can kind of address this in a bigger way. I know that many students right now, or future students, are seeing how other campuses are handling move-in. You know, there's some campuses across the nation that their move-in process has already started, and they're all being done slightly differently. What's great about us starting a little later than most, we're getting to learn all of the lessons of what's worked and what hasn't worked well on other campuses. And so we are planning, our testing process is truly being geared towards allowing students to have the ability to sort of roam around those 7 days within the community. So during those 7 days, what Chrissy referred to as hunkering down, you know, really staying within the community to make sure that we don't have any community transfer of COVID in those first 7 days. You will be able to come down and get your food. You'll be able to come down and go to the C-store. If you have a medical appointment on campus at the health center, you'll be able to do that. So you are not going to be mandated to stay in your room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during that 7-day period, which perhaps you may be seeing on social media other campuses have done. Ours looks slightly differently.
Okay. This next question comes with a little bit of an introduction to the question. So I'm having a hard time understanding why parents cannot enter the building, especially if we are coming from home with our parents. I understand having a certain time where parents with family needs to leave, but I do not understand parents being unable to help their students get stuff into the room and be able to share that experience with family. Is that possibly a decision that can be revisited or reconsidered?
You want me to take that, Bob?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the main reasons why parents are not allowed in the buildings is because each student will be tested literally the day that they move in, and they will not receive keys until we get a confirmation of a negative COVID test. We do not have the capability to test every single parent, friend, relative, so on and so forth that is being tested. This way we ensure that every single person, individual, moving into our halls is COVID-free on the day of move-in. Because we cannot test every single individual. And I know some people say, well, no, I don't have symptoms. The biggest thing to keep in mind with COVID is that it can stay dormant in a lot of ways for 2 to 3 days from the time of exposure, and you won't realize that. So that's even while there'll be ongoing testing while you're living on campus. So this isn't just you get tested on move-in day, but there'll be an ongoing testing throughout your period of living on campus. Unfortunately, this is a decision that's already been made. I do not believe it's going to be revisited. I think that the campus health committee, and as well as everybody else that's on the campus, believes that this is the best decision to ensure the positive experience and the health experience of all of our students. Keep in mind, though, too, that I understand as a parent where this is tough. My parents drove me 4 or 5 states. I went to school in Kansas for my undergrad, and my parents drove me states, and I'm sure that they would be extremely disheartened as well if when they got there they knew that they couldn't help me get set up in my room. I remember my mom made my bed. She did those things. Trust that we understand that this is difficult for parents, especially when we serve a high first-gen student population such as myself. My parents, again, going back to how my parents felt, it would have been a little disturbing, but we are still trying to provide an experience where you can still take a photo opportunity of dropping your child off, doing things along those lines. Like I said, we understand completely that this is a hard decision to make, but it ultimately is for the safety of your child and the rest of the community that will be living with us.
Thank you, Chrissy. So we are a couple minutes past our time, but we do have a lot more questions. So panelists, can we hang around and answer some more questions, maybe for another 15 minutes? Wonderful. Next question is, what time during the day do the restrooms get cleaned?
So they'll be cleaned multiple times a day, starting in the morning and then midday and then again in the evenings. So those are the primary times. I don't have an exact time for you, but those are the times of day that we'll be tackling that.
Okay. Bob, is the housing contract cancellation policy the same for Dundee as it is for the other
residence halls? Yes, it is. So it's actually the same contract for all of the residence halls.
Thank you. Regarding the question earlier about desk drawers in Dundee, Ben, our marketing manager, did pop in the chat a link to take a look at them. The desks in Dundee do not come with drawers, so just for everyone to know that. Next question is from Chris. Would neighbors be able to enter each other's rooms who are right next door?
Yes. So if you live in the same hall, you can visit people within your same hall. And keep in mind, if you have been on campus, there is a ton of great outdoor space. For example, Pentland Hills has a huge, what we call the Pentland Green. There's plenty of space outside to interact with people. Like, please know that as we're talking about some of these restrictions, and I've seen some questions as well, our restrictions are being strictly based off of state and county regulations. So as the state and the county loosens regulations, we too will loosen regulations. So somebody said, like, how long will this be? Well, you never know. By September or October, we might be in a much better place. And then we'll say, yeah, you can go ahead and intermingle between buildings and so forth. However, all of our current policies are based off current state and county guidelines. And as we loosen, we will let you know that we are loosening guidelines. However, we can also go in the reverse. If people are not abiding by various guidelines that are put in place, then we might have to get more strict. So it really is kind of depending on where the state and the county are. So just kind of keep those things in mind, that these can definitely get looser as we do our part in, as they say, flattening the curve and hopefully living 2020 in a more realistic time frame and time, as we are all wishing right now to begin with.
Thank you. Bob, I think this is a good question that we've heard a lot in the other info sessions. So if we cancel our on-campus apartment contracts for fall, how would the reapplication process work if we go back for winter and spring?
That is a great question. It's a very big one right now. So in the apartments, if you are to cancel your contract for fall, you are essentially canceling your contract for the rest of the year. But what you can do is, as soon as you put that cancellation in, you can go right back in and you can submit a new application noting that that your move-in preference is for winter or spring, whatever it might be. I should say, let's move to the residence halls, because I'm sure the same question applies to the residence halls. If you are thinking, I'm not ready to come for fall, but I'm really interested in coming for winter, then you should go in as soon as possible. And so you avoid the 30 days before move-in fees starting to approach. Cancel your contract. That will cancel your contract not just for fall, but for the entire year. So then what you'll want to do is, for the residence hall is a little different. We have a contract period for winter that opens up in November. So that date will be published or publicly You'll see it on our website, and we'll probably send emails out to remind folks because we know that that's going to be a popular decision this year. But you can go back in November and submit a new contract that will allow you to move in for winter, and it also will take you right through spring. If you were to decide that winter wasn't looking good either, and you wanted to wait till spring, same situation. So cancel your contract, whatever your current contract is, cancel it. It cancels it for the entire year. Then go back in February, our contract reopens for spring, and you can sign a contract just for spring.
Okay. Next question, if residence halls that are currently housing singles only will change to double or triple occupancy later on, are we able to change residence halls?
Wow, a lot of decisions that could change as we go. So I would say at this moment that you're definitely not going to see a triple occupancy room this year. I just don't think that's going to happen, no matter how things change during the year. Will we possibly backfill and turn singles into doubles? I think there's always the possibility if things are looking that good and there is that much interest in living on campus. I suppose that's possible. From our vantage point right now, it's not looking like that will happen. To go back to your follow-up to that question, can you request a change to a different hall? You can do that. You know, depending on how full we are, we may not have a lot of availability to move around, but we certainly will entertain that for you if that's something you're interested in during the year.
Okay. Will students be allowed to leave for Thanksgiving break?
Yes, as of right now, there are no restrictions on that piece. Obviously enjoying turkey dinner, if that's what you enjoy on Thanksgiving, or ham, whatever you may eat, that's done with family. And so we are encouraging that, and we hope that students will enjoy that experience. Of course, when you're going home, we will ask that you monitor your symptoms while there before coming back, ensuring that you're healthy to return, and just kind of keeping in mind too, there might even be a testing prior to returning to campus as well. Based on conversations we're having, most likely that would take place as well as students return.
Okay. Next question, how much is the laundry and can you use pods?
Can you use?
Pods, the little soap pod thing.
Good question. Are these high efficiency cleaners? I'm not sure about the pods. I'm going to say probably not. I think institutional washers don't always take those. If someone else has a different knowledge base, please say something. And I don't know the laundry prices right off the top of my head. I believe it's 75 cents for a wash and $1.50 for a dry, if I remember.
Bob, is that information on the housing website?
It actually is on the housing website and the FAQs, yeah. Not the COVID FAQs, but the standard FAQs, yes.
Okay, perfect. So housing.ucr.edu, right now there's a big button at the top that says Fall 2020 FAQs. That's not where you'll find it. You'll find it on the other FAQ page.
And that other question about the pods, feel free to ask us that at housinginfo.ucr.edu. And we can get that information for you for sure. Sorry, I don't know that.
Okay, I feel like we have addressed this, but maybe we can address it as specifically as we can. When will we be able to have friends in our dorms?
That again just goes back to state and county regulations. As they loosen, we will loosen. Not going to go through the whole spiel again, but that's ultimately what we're basing our decisions off of.
Okay, I feel like this question is sort of in line with that answer, but I think there is something specific in here we can address. If the County of Riverside will be moving into phase 2 or 3, will the campus be opening up more for fall, or is the fall quarter set as it is now?
Are they speaking in regards to occupancy? I mean, I guess you want to know, Leslie, didn't ask the question, but I think that right now what we're planning on doing for the start of the academic year is set in stone from a residential life perspective in regards to the 7-day kind of hunkering down of sorts, getting tested before coming. The reality is even as we do loosen and the county does get things, the reality is COVID's still out there. We don't have a vaccine, things along those lines. So we're going to still take all necessary precautions to ensure that we have a safe and healthy environment for students to move in.
I think also at this point, with fall quarter being predominantly remote, I don't see that changing in the middle of a quarter for certain. And then in regards to, you know, Bob has already said there won't be any triples for the year. Bob, I don't know if there's a possibility that singles in fall might turn into doubles still in fall. I imagine those decisions won't be changed in the middle of a quarter.
That is true. So that I can tell you for sure that the singles will stay singles and the doubles will stay doubles. The doubles, unless we're told that we can't leave those doubles, but nothing will triple up and singles won't double up.
Okay. And then Robin, in regards to dining, I think this might be an area that could possibly change in the middle of a quarter. If dine in was allowed, would the residential dining room switch to dine in as an option in the middle of a quarter?
Yeah, I do think that's possible. We can't flip the moment that guidance comes out because it does change the staffing model to have dine in the restaurant. So it might take us a little bit to adjust. It's likely that when dine-in becomes allowed again, which we are hearing from Riverside County, that could come shortly after Labor Day. So if that comes, we still may not be able to start the quarter with dine-in because it's such a drastic sort of scheduling shift. But if that comes, it'll also most likely be coupled with a reduced occupancy in a restaurant. So if a restaurant has 100 seats, the guidance may say dine-in seating can come back, but at a 25% occupancy, so 25 instead of 100 seats. So in Glasgow, similar, if it's 860, our campus might choose to reduce that definitely by 25%, if not more. And then we may have to have some type of reservation system to allow for seating. So there's more than just flipping the switch to letting dine in. That's coupled with a few more things we have to work out. But we are fully anticipating that if dine-in seating is an option in fall quarter, we will work to get there so that at least some seating in the restaurant can happen. It just may not start that way.
Okay. I think I'm going to try to sneak in one or two more questions. Can students leave the campus after the 7-day period if they were to go home for a week?
Did you want to address that, Dr. Bender?
Say that again, Leslie, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can students leave the campus after the 7-day period if they were to go home for a week?
We are recommending that students do not, highly recommending that students do not. We're obviously not going to regulate it. We're not putting a GPS on you or anything like that. But we're highly encouraging that students do not travel to and from home. The very, very few cases that we did have in the spring were because of students traveling to and from home locations. It wasn't necessarily from their interactions on campus or the students that were living with them in the halls. It was from going other places and kind of doing other things. We're highly recommending that they don't do that. If you do, we ask again that you monitor your symptoms, that you don't return to campus if you're not feeling well, things along those lines. This is really about the greater good, as it has been since the day that this pandemic started, is how do we put aside individual need for the greater good of the community? And we're asking the same thing take place here, is that you think about the greater good of the community and how to ensure that everybody around you and yourself stays healthy and safe.
Okay, so I do think that it's 12 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and end now. We want to thank you all for joining this info session, and we hope that you got answers to the questions that you had. We're doing all that we can to prepare for your arrival in the fall and want you to know that we are dedicated to providing you a safe, welcoming, and learning-friendly environment that allows you to have the college experience that you've been hoping for. There are plenty of questions that we didn't get to today, and we do apologize for that. But as a reminder, visit our website for more information. We have a very robust FAQ specifically for fall 2020. We also have done 2 of these info Zoom sessions before today and recorded them, and those recordings are up on the website as well. So if you want to give both of those a listen, you might get a question that maybe you asked that we didn't get to today. So other than that, thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of your day, and go Highlanders. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.